As a sales manager, you're constantly looking for an edge, right? But what if the biggest lever you could pull wasn't some new sales tactic, but a deep, real understanding of human psychology? Today, we're going to unlock the science of persuasion. Think of it as a powerful framework to not just lead your team, but to completely reshape your entire strategy. So let me just ask you this. Is there a truly predictable, scientific way to boost your team's performance? A method that swaps out all of the guesswork for proven psychological triggers. Well, the answer is a huge, definitive yes. And it all comes down to understanding the hidden architecture of how people make choices. All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to kick things off with the foundational science. Then we'll unpack the 6 core principles of persuasion. After that, we'll translate all that theory into a practical playbook just for managers, see it in action with a really cool case study, and then wrap up with the key takeaways you can literally start using tomorrow. So let's start with the big idea. At its heart, selling, really effective selling, isn't about pushing a product. It's about understanding the fundamental triggers that guide how we all behave. It's way less art and a whole lot more science. Think about it this way. The most successful sales strategies, they aren't just random shots in the dark. Nope. They tap into the predictable, often subconscious mental shortcuts our brains use to make decisions. And this is exactly where Dr. Robert Cialdini's incredible work comes into play. He's the one who identified the universal factors that basically unlock these mechanisms for us. Okay, let's get to the good stuff, the core framework itself. We're about to break down the 6 principles that are the absolute building blocks of persuasion. Honestly, mastering these is the key to taking your team's entire approach from guesswork to a predictable, repeatable system. So here they are, the 6 pillars. First up is reciprocity, that deep-seated urge we have to give something back when we get something. Then there's scarcity, that powerful fear of missing out. Third, you've got authority, our natural tendency to trust the experts. Fourth is consistency, which is our desire to stick with decisions we've already made. Fifth, likability. Pretty straightforward, we just prefer people we know and like. And finally, social proof, that powerful comfort we get from just following the crowd. So this is the most important part. Knowing these principles is one thing, but how do you, as a manager, turn this psychology into actual concrete strategies for your team? That's what this playbook is all about. It's about turning that theory into daily practice. Let's kick it off with reciprocity. Look, this isn't about random acts of kindness. It's about systematic generosity. Your job as a manager is to build a process where giving value first, a free resource, a unique insight, whatever, is the standard opening move for every single client interaction. That small gift creates this powerful, often unconscious, social obligation for the client to give something back. Next up, scarcity. This is all about creating a gentle, ethical push. You need to train your team to use phrases like limited availability not as some sleazy pressure tactic, but as a genuine tool to help a customer get past their own indecision. It frames the choice not as if, but as now, and that turns hesitation into action. Now for authority. Your role here is to be the architect of your team's credibility. You need to arm your salespeople with an entire arsenal of tools that instantly establish them as experts. And that means making sure every piece of sales material is just loaded with proof. Certifications, glowing client references, undeniable success stories, the whole 9 yards. Consistency is all about momentum. It's your job to coach your team to structure their conversations around getting small, easy yes agreements right from the start. See, each yes is a tiny commitment, and it makes it psychologically way harder for the client to say no down the line. It builds this undeniable path straight to that final big yes. Okay, likability. It might feel like just a personality trait, but in sales, it's a skill you can absolutely train. Your job is to systematize rapport building. This means coaching your team on active listening and techniques for finding genuine, authentic, common ground. Why? Because the simple truth is people buy from people they like, period. And then we have social proof. This is all about removing risk from the buyer's mind. Your task here is to create a centralized, super easy to access library of user reviews, case studies, and success stories. Because when a prospect sees that people just like them have already won with your solution, their decision just feels safer, smarter, and almost inevitable. So let's see how all these principles really work out there in the wild. We're going to look at a company that has become an absolute master at using this science to persuade millions of people every single day. Booking.com. Just picture it for a second. You're searching for a hotel, maybe for your next vacation. You're scrolling through all the options, you're weighing the pros and cons, But you're not just looking at pictures and prices, are you? You're being subtly guided by some expert-level persuasion architecture. Sound familiar? Of course it does. These little notifications are a masterclass in applied psychology. 15 people viewing this hotel is powerful social proof. It screams that this is a popular, desirable choice. And only 2 rooms left? That's pure scarcity. Put them together, and they create a super compelling, immediate reason not to wait around. And this just brilliantly illustrates the core lesson for you and your team. Booking.com doesn't just show you options, it actively prevents you from procrastinating. It gives you a logical, urgent reason to stop thinking and start acting. It turns that indecision into a clear, compelling reason to buy. Okay, so we've covered the theory, we've seen it in action, now let's pull it all together. This is your leadership tool, a simple, powerful summary of how you can put all these principles to work for you. Now, don't just look at this as a summary slide. I want you to see this as the actual agenda for your next team meeting. For every single one of those psychological principles, there is a clear, actionable strategy you can start rolling out tomorrow. This is your playbook for turning your team into a scientifically backed sales machine. So I'll leave you with this one question. You don't have to do everything at once. Looking at this playbook right now, which one principle can you implement this week that's going to get you the biggest result? Because the real power isn't in just knowing this stuff, it's in doing it.